The Benjamin Dixon Show is only possible with listener support. Go to www.thebenjamindixonshow.com to register for our blog and join the Progressive Army.
Today is Wednesday, December 28th, 2022. Thank you so much for joining me. This morning, I begin in Columbus, Ohio, where a 13-year-old black boy, Sinzae Reed, was shot and killed back in October. Now, I'm just getting wind of this last night, and this news is just picking up because of social media. We've seen so many times before, if there is not a push from social media, we will not even know about these stories, let alone get justice. And in this case, it wasn't a police shooting. It was a shooting by a random white guy who had already been up on domestic violence charges, domestic abuse charges, and was legally not able to have a weapon. Yet and still, he was released without bail. I want to read you some of the key details from the Columbus Dispatch. A family asked why charges were dropped against a Columbus man accused of killing a 13-year-old. Court documents filed by police allege Craig A. Butler, Sr., 36-year-old, fatally shot 13-year-old Sinzae Reed on the afternoon of October 12th in the Hilltop neighborhood. Butler fled the scene. Butler may be claiming self-defense, according to a police detective. I'm not sure why there is a may, or why there is a question here and not a full-blown investigation. Why are they taking this at his word? Franklin County prosecutors initially filed a murder charge against Butler, but dismissed the case on October 19th, which meant Butler would be released from jail. Prosecutors and police say this case is ongoing and it could still be brought before a grand jury in common pleas court. Butler could not legally own a gun because of a previous conviction for misdemeanor domestic violence. Now, in this case, the witnesses who saw what happened saw the shooter get out of his truck and unload on this 13-year-old boy, shooting him multiple times in the back and in the hand. The boy died sometime later. Now, the victim was apparently the neighbor of this man, Butler, who shot and killed him, got out of his truck, shot and killed him, got back into the truck and fled. And as a result, this is the part, maybe I should just read it verbatim from the news report because it seems a bit absurd, but it was because of a post by the man's mother on Facebook claiming that it was self-defense that led to all of the charges being dismissed. And again, this happened back in October. We have not heard about this on the national level because, as we saw in the case with Jaheim McMillan, the 15-year-old child who was gunned down by Gulfport police, we understand that without a video, it is damn near impossible to get justice today. But something else is really disturbing me about this story, and it's a trend that I've been seeing all around the country. The number of regular white citizens, not even deputized sheriff officers, not police officers, not officers of the law. We've become accustomed to cops being able to get away with murder. But it is the abundance of white citizens who are able to get away with killing black people, and in this case, a black child. And they are able to get away with it without even so much as charges being brought up. That is a trend that is happening all across this country that I have experienced and I've seen firsthand. I've seen it firsthand because I have had cases, and I lie not to you, I have had cases directly sent to me for my team, this show, to investigate and help parents get justice on behalf of their children, black children, who were killed by random white citizens. And I say random not in the sense that they didn't know each other in each case. No, random in the sense that they are not officers of the law. In America, you not only have to get used to cops killing you if you're a black person, we have entered a season where just regular, schmegular white folks who decide to get out and unload on black children because they were afraid of a 13-year-old child are able to get away with murder. Now, prayers and condolences and solidarity with the family, of this young 13-year-old boy. We want to remember his name and make sure that everybody understands that this type of thing happens on a regular basis. What happened to Sinzae Reed, what happened to him has happened to so many black people in this country. And it's not just a function of our ridiculous gun laws. It's not just a function of our obsession with guns in this country. It is a function of white supremacy to be able to get away with murder no matter who you are. And it's a shame that I even have to make that kind of stipulation, no matter who you are. Because we, again, have become so accustomed to police officers getting away with murder that it's almost like this is an additional offense on top of everything else, right? We have to make the distinction that this is so far gone in the United States of America that just random, regular, undeputized, untrained white folk can jump out of their cars, unload on black people, and because this system is so accustomed to fearing black people, they get away with it by just saying self-defense. We've seen this happen so many times, not only with George Zimmerman killing of Trayvon Martin, which this country, Republicans and conservatives in this country still celebrate to this day, knowing full well that he got away with murder. It has gone so far and so long in this country that it is a deeply entrenched cultural norm. And it is an expectation of white people, white conservatives specifically, white male conservatives, if you want to drill down even more precisely, they have an expectation that they should be able to kill black people and get away with it and claim self-defense because they know all you have to do in the United States of America is say that you were afraid for your life. And if the victim was black, it doesn't matter if that child was 12 years old, like Tamir Rice. Doesn't matter if they're 13, like this young Sinzae Reed. Doesn't matter if you're 15, like Jaheim McMillan. As long as you tell somebody that you feared for your life, it doesn't matter what you did to create the situation, escalate the situation, or how young the child was. America is used to killing black people and getting away with it. Organizers are protesting across the state in the freezing cold weather. We want to support them. We want to send our love and our solidarity, and anything that we can do to help, we certainly will on this show. But something must fundamentally change because justice should not be predicated upon who has a big enough audience in order to bring attention to an issue. Justice should not be based on whether or not we have conclusive video evidence that can create enough outrage from the public for the pressure to be put on. We would not have justice for George Floyd if it was not for that video, but that is not how a justice system should work. A true system of justice would not kill us in the first place. Taking that phrase from my sister Anoa Changa, who coined it so eloquently years ago. She said, true justice is police not killing us in the first place. Well, this is how far we've gone down the rabbit hole of white supremacy being able to kill with impunity. It's not just police officers getting away with murder anymore. It's just your random, average white dude who decides to get out of his truck and unload on a 13-year-old and claim self-defense. I want to follow up on a story that we started covering last week dealing with the 6 forest protectors who were arrested on domestic terrorism charges in the city of Atlanta and around the city of Atlanta as they protested the CopCity $90 million quote unquote training compound that is slated to be built in the very public lands that they were protesting on. They were occupying public parks, and the DeKalb County SWAT team, in conjunction with the Department of Homeland Security and the FBI and state officials, swarmed in and arrested 6 protesters and charged them with domestic terrorism without giving them any bail. Now, I spoke last Friday with Kamal Franklin, who is a part of the community movement organizers. He the founder of that organization, and they're on the front lines trying to help and assist. And he pointed us towards the Atlanta Solidarity Fund. Well, according to the Atlanta Solidarity Fund, who was raising money to get these people out on bail once bail became available, this is what they said this morning on Twitter. They said the following, quote, "The 6 people charged with domestic terrorism in relation to the Stop CopCity movement have finally been granted bail. Thanks to your donations, we'll be able to secure their release ASAP. But supporting these 6 defendants does not end there." They continued and said the domestic terrorism charges these protesters are facing are utterly baseless. Legal experts, including the ACLU, have warned prosecutors that there is no basis for such a case. We have been assembling a legal team to defend them every step of the way through the legal process. And finally, they said you can help defend the rights of these and other protesters by becoming a recurring donor to the Atlanta Solidarity Fund. I want you to, if you can, send over some resources to that bail fund in particular, because this is not just a bail fund. There's a legal fund. They're trying to help these protesters throughout the entire process, because this is perhaps one of the most draconian crackdowns on protests that we've seen in some time. Now, we've seen what the cops do. When we protest for Black life, we see that they send out the tanks. They send out the stormtroopers, the Gestapo. They will beat us mercilessly, whether we are Black or white. We saw that during the George Floyd protests. When we go out on behalf of Black life, they bring out the troops. Now, in this case, what these 6 forest defenders did brought down not only the SWAT team, but it brought down domestic terrorism charges. Now, keep in mind that this is directly connected to a $90 million investment into a police compound that is a giveaway to real estate developers right there in that area, in addition to a handout to a Hollywood movie studio that is going to be using and utilizing the sound stage that is going to be built there. So I want everyone to be very clear. This is not a protest against police violence against Black life. This is a protest against greed. This is a protest against the police state. But most importantly, it is a protest not only to protect the environment, but to ward off this perfect marriage between corporate America and the police state, which is one of the fundamental definitions of fascism. One of the fundamental underlying tenets of fascism is a corporatocracy that is protected by brute force, by barbarism, by violence, by a police state. And the direct response from the powers that be, both Black and white, Democrat and Republican, from Keisha Lance Bottoms, former mayor of Atlanta, to the current mayor of Atlanta, to Georgia Governor Brian Kemp, they all are complicit and co-conspired to give this hand-me-out to pacify the protection racket known as the police force. And this is why the domestic terrorism charges were brought here. They were brought here because this is corporate America and the police state stating very clearly that they will not permit people to protest their action, their prospects, their financial gain. And this is why I believe that there has to be so much more solidarity across all of our interests, all of the things that we're fighting for and advocating for, all of our allies, all of the different marginalized communities. We are fighting against one machine that has tentacles everywhere, that has influence and impact in every area of our lives. And so we can't just look at our single issue. We can't be single issue activists anymore. It's incumbent upon us to find and exercise and demonstrate solidarity amongst all of our allies, whether they be water protectors, forest protectors, LGBTQIA activists, union workers. It doesn't matter. Black Lives Matter grassroots. It doesn't matter what we are fighting for, because we are all fighting against one solid, behemoth, monolithic machine. One machine that seeks to entrench corporate power and economic power into the police state, so that the police state can continuously provide the protection that their racket needs. And every single one of us, I don't care if you're Black, white, I don't care if you're Christian, Muslim, Jewish, I don't care if you're gay, straight, it doesn't matter your identity. all of us suffer underneath this same machine, unless, of course, you're a millionaire, multimillionaire, a billionaire. Unless, of course, you're the type of person who actually makes all of their living off of this machine, in which case, I don't know why you're listening to this podcast. But for the rest of us who have to go every single day and find out a new aspect of our life has come under attack. It's not just the culture war, which is a very important front in this battle. It's also the very real and tangible results that the police state provides for corporate overlords. And what we see happening in Atlanta with CopCity and these domestic terrorism charges is a direct result of the police state pushing back against anyone who would dare challenge a $90 million handout in the wake. I mean, as a reward. Like, this was a gift. The police are the only institution in this country who can get away with murder, don't prevent murders, Uvalde. I mean, exercise the height of incompetence and get a reward for it. ATLSolidarityFund.org.
Welcome back to the Benjamin Dixon Show. Visit us online at thebenjamindixonshow.com.
Yep. Welcome back. So many stories that are happening right now across the country. The holidays did not slow down the news. Elon Musk has put Tesla at great risk as their stock has fallen from a high of $400 a share, now approaching $100 a share. And some speculators are expecting that there is going to be a margin call eventually if it keeps tanking the way that it's tanking. I want to play a clip from CNBC as they discuss this, but I also want to point out Elon Musk's response to this specific video. Right. This is a video discussing the tanking of the Tesla stock that comes as a result of Elon Musk's reputation and people really finally understanding that he's not a genius. So much of what Elon Musk is simply a PR brand, like public relations, posturing and marketing. Right. For years, everyone just assumed that Elon Musk was a genius because, one, he was rich, and two, he owned companies he didn't found, but he purchased companies like SpaceX, right? And like Tesla, companies that help point us towards the future, at least in theory, right? We look at those companies and we see a space industry company and we think, wow, the people behind this, they must be geniuses and they must actually be, forward-thinking individuals. Little did most of you know, because I kind of had an idea about this for some time, but most people really didn't realize the depth of Elon's idiocy. And so when your brand is, when your wealth is built on your brand and your brand is built on being recognized as a genius, it doesn't bode well when you get on Twitter and you start insulting people about their testicle sizes. I mean, this is what Elon Musk is doing. It doesn't bode well when you get on social, you buy a $44 billion investment and you start tweeting like a first-year Twitterer, like a person who is engaging with the very worst of society. I mean, dregs of society, not just fascist adjacent journalists like, and I use journalists in air quotes, like In Chung Miles and Andy Ngo, right? But actually bringing back white nationalists and engaging with them. And so Twitter has been tanking, yes, but Tesla has been taking a toll because of Elon Musk. Let's take a listen to this clip, and then I'll read you the response, which is a bit draconian. It's a little dark from Elon Musk, considering what these people are saying about him.
Well, let's talk about that reputation. So, look, I would have always argued that he would have argued that Tesla was overvalued to begin with. So, we've seen it come down, and a lot of people have been hurt in the process. I appreciate that. But the larger piece that I've been curious about since he bought Twitter is actually how the reputation at Twitter ultimately impacts the other businesses from a consumer standpoint, from a regulatory standpoint. And, when you think about SpaceX, they require, Defense Department contracts, both in the U.S., I imagine, elsewhere. So how the reputational piece of all of this comes into play may matter to everything else.
I mean, he is just talking too much, right? He's talking too much on Spaces. You and I were on the same Spaces together, I believe, a couple of days ago, where he promised that he wasn't going to sell any more stock. He's leaving open all of this room for critique, for analysis, for the world to weigh in. And I think that's where he is showing that he is most vulnerable, because he's making himself so vulnerable.
The first voice you heard was that of Andrew Ross Sorkin of Squawk Box, and the second voice was Hope King. And this was yesterday morning as they discussed the tanking of Tesla shares, estimated somewhere of losing around $720 billion of value lost since Elon Musk purchased Twitter. So much is wrapped into the so-called myth and legend of Elon Musk that when he finally started talking publicly and had a platform that he owned, he showed in short order that he did not have the impulse control of an 11-year-old. He did not have the intellect of a fifth grader, and that he was intentionally aligning himself with fascists. Now, I want to point something out. Wall Street is fine whether or not this country is a democracy or a theocratic fascist state. I know that's kind of a big segue and a big statement to make in the middle of discussing Elon Musk, but I want people to realize when it comes to getting money, Wall Street is rather agnostic when it comes to fascism. And I would argue that many people who worship the markets truly would rather a system that they did not have to worry about regulations or democracy. Now, I say that because as they discuss Elon Musk's reputation, part of his reputation tanking is tied to his very clear alignment with fascism. That's just part of it. The other part is that he's just a moron. And he's proven himself not to be the genius that this same network promised that he was. I mean, every other day on CNBC, it was all about Elon Musk and how brilliant he was. So I don't want to make it seem as though these journalists are doing anything other than just reporting the horse race, right? The economic horse race, but they are pointing out some very clear truths. At the end of the day, when your brand is nothing but a facade and your brand is based on you appearing to be a genius, the last thing that you should do for the sake of all the people who have invested billions of dollars into you is to come out and prove them in very short order, prove to the world that you are an abject moron. Well, this was Elon Musk's reply to this clip. To me, it's a pretty tepid and mild, accurate description of what's going on. Elon Musk responded, "The legacy media should worry about its reputation. We have only just begun." I mean, a thinly veiled threat, but when you align it with who he is aligned with, it immediately made me think of Carrie Lake, the Republican candidate and Donald Trump's pick for governor for the state of Arizona. She lost, but on the day of the election, she made a very direct threat to the media.
I am going to not only be the governor of Arizona for 4 years, I'm going to do 2 terms. I'm going to be your worst freaking nightmare for 8 years. And we will reform the media as well. We're going to make you guys into journalists again. So get ready. It's going to be a fun 8 years. I can't wait to be working with you.
I mean, thank God she lost, but this is the mindset. Of course, we understand this attack on the media is not new. And since Donald Trump began this in earnest, right, I'm quite sure we can find examples throughout American history where politicians had conflict with the media, right? But the all-out war on journalism really began in earnest with Donald Trump. And so when you hear, or you read in this case, the tweet from Elon Musk frustratingly attacking the media because they gave him unfavorable coverage, it really should help you to understand the broader goal here. The broader goal here is to have zero opposition from the media, zero opposition politically, zero accountability and the ability to do anything they literally want to do because they have that expectation. People like Elon Musk and Donald Trump have the expectation deep inside of their heart that they are not to be challenged because they are the privileged children of this empire, of this global order that has given them everything they could ever dream of, everything they could ever want. They were able to get it, and nobody ever told them no. Nobody ever corrected them. At no point in their life have they ever been held accountable for anything. And so now that they're on this international global stage, they expect every human on this planet to do the same thing. They expect the media to abide by their wishes and their demands, and anyone, absolutely anyone who challenges them or attempts to hold them accountable, well, all of a sudden, they become a target. I'm sorry, but that just does not scream supremacy to me. That doesn't say that they are supreme. It doesn't sound like these are people who can perform well in an actual meritocracy. And we know for a fact that they cannot perform well in a democracy, which is why democracy is under attack.
Go to www.patreon.com/The BPD Show and get twice the content and unfiltered interviews without any of the commercial interruptions. Welcome back to The Benjamin Dixon Show. Visit us online at thebenjamindixonshow.com.
Welcome back. Welcome back. I want to follow up on the story that I ended on yesterday. Yesterday, I played a clip of Tucker Carlson interviewing Chaya Raichik. She is the founder of quote unquote libs of TikTok. Now, if you don't know what that is or who that is, congratulations. You are not plugged into this internet enough to actually be bothered by the dregs of society, because this is what this individual is. This is what she is. She targets the LGBTQIA community. And yesterday we played a clip of her labeling everyone, every member of the LGBTQIA community as evil on national television in an environment where we are inundated with violence, like the Q nightclub mass shooting, Pulse nightclub shooting. We've seen children's hospitals have to be abandoned and evacuated because of bomb threats. And yesterday I played that clip, which was so repulsive to me. I wish I didn't have to cover it. But Chad Loader, who is a friend of the show, we used to follow each other on Twitter until Elon Musk intentionally and specifically targeted him and suspended his account. He's an anti-fascist organizer and a journalist who has been on the front line of these issues for some time. After that interview with Tucker Carlson, it took Chad about 5 hours to scan the surveillance footage from January 6th at the insurrection. And it appears as though Chaya Raichik was a part of the crowd that breached a secure portion of the Capitol on January 6th. Now, this is still being reported. This is still being investigated. In fact, the video in reference has been referred to the FBI for their investigation, for their ongoing investigation into the insurrection of January 6th. But is anyone surprised? Is there anyone surprised that an individual who has committed her entire life to harming people simply because of their sexual orientation or gender identification, is it any surprise that they would be found in a group of Neanderthal barbarians charging their own gate? You shouldn't be. Maybe you don't know who she is, so God bless you on that. I apologize for having to bring her to you on the radar, but if you listen to yesterday's episode, and I don't even want to play the clip again, but if you listen to yesterday's episode of the last 5 minutes and you listen to the evil, hate-filled bile that came out of her mouth as it pertains to another human, not just one human, an entire group of people, especially when she is fully aware that her words leads to violence, stochastic terrorism at its best. only fitting that she should now potentially face an investigation from the FBI for being a part of the insurrection. Maybe. We'll see. I've seen white people get away with a whole lot more in this country. In fact, there are people around her in that video who didn't get arrested either. So chances are it may not go anywhere. But it warms my soul to know that someone as bigoted and malevolent as Chaya Raichik would now be faced with a possible investigation because she was apparently caught red-handed. You should have stayed anonymous, Chaya. You should have just enjoyed the fruits of your hate-filled labor, but you got sucked into the vanity of it all. The limelight. I mean, the main stage is really bright, but why would you get on the main stage when you have apparently also been a part of the January 6th insurrection? The universe does have a way of balancing itself out, even if it's just in these small ways, because there's so many other injustices that have to be attended to. Anyway, folks, that's it. That's it for today. I hope you all are enjoying this time I hope that you have some time to spend with family and by yourself during this holiday season. No matter what you celebrate, make sure to take some time for yourself and make sure that you take some time for your friends and family. Even if it's not your biological family, but take some time with your chosen family. And if that family happens to be your online family and your social media family or even your podcasting family, from me to you, take care of yourself. We love you out there. We'll see you tomorrow.